Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. This is the Tuesday Live, third Tuesday of the month. I'm coming to you from an undisclosed hideout location in a different state from usual at an Airbnb. And we've got Billy Bond from Permaculture's Farm and John Willis from Special Operations Equipment as usual. John, let's start with you. Show us that shirt. Do you still have some left?
Yeah. We just showed them for the first time last night. We haven't even really pushed them. It says prepared, not scared. It's got a, this side, it's got shovel pitchfork or hay fork, AR-15 rifle, and medical here.
I love it. How does somebody get one of those?
SOEtacticalgear.com.
Okay, guys, get those t-shirts before they're gone. I'm pretty sure that's going to sell out fast. Billy, what's new in your world? We haven't talked to you in a month.
Oh, man, I can't. I'll show you my t-shirt, too. Listen.
Nice.
Awake but not woke. All right.
There you go. That's not nearly as controversial as the one I've been wearing earlier this week, wore it to Asheville. People wouldn't even wait on me. It said, make men men again. How about that? Of all the things I've ever worn, yeah, so that's what's new going on with me. So, I mean, I can't wait to wear some of John's shirts. I mean, he always has the coolest stuff, and I love the fact that it's always like limited items. So hopefully, yeah, he's going to send some of that stuff on the first thing smoking this way, and I can't wait to pimp it out.
Yeah, we'll get some over there.
Awesome. Well, I was just at the Exit and Build Land Summit in Bastrop, Texas last weekend, and there were a lot of statement shirts. And so Jack Spirko and I were talking, and we decided that at some event soon, we're going to have it required that you have a statement shirt on for this one day during the event, or we get to pinch you like it's like you're not wearing green on St. Patty's Day or something.
Why wouldn't somebody want to do that? I mean, what has Abercrombie ever done for you? What is, I mean, honestly, if it's not saying anything, you're either an activist or you're an inactivist. Either way, you're involved. I mean, so at the end of the day, if I'm not wearing everything I put on, from the pants I got on all the way down, everything except down to the shoes I wear, everything is, look, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying it's all custom made. It's not off the shelf. I'm trying to support. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. You know, the t-shirt I have, it supports another YouTube. The pants I have, they aren't made by Levi's or Wrangler or anything like that. Besides, those Wranglers, man, they make me look like I'm wearing booty chokers, so I can't do that anyway. Socks I got on are 100% wool, made by a little small family operation, and everything but the shoes I got on right now. And since I don't wear underwear, we don't even need to get into that. So
you heard it here first. Billy Bond is going commando.
Yep. You should check out Katanica, Billy, if you wear shorts at all. They've got pants, but I wear Katanica shorts. I've used them for about 6 years now. I buy them for all my employees. Awesome. U.S. made. They're in San Francisco, unfortunately, but we'll forgive that. But they made all the big jackets that the Mythbusters use. That's kind of where they got their claim to fame. But I've got pin. Well, you can't see them. I got pin slots. It's got pockets all over. It's got stuff to tether with and carabiner your keys to. Like, they're awesome. You can put 2 M4 mags in the cargo pocket. I can put leather gloves in the cargo pockets. They're badass, man.
That's what I'm talking about, man. The last I would say custom made wear was offered to me by a guy who made this device called, and I quote, the ball bra. The ball bra.
Yeah, I've seen them.
And I'm like, dude, for real?
Yeah.
Somebody actually put some brain work into this. I'm like, okay, bro, I think, okay, I can dig your product, but I won't exactly be wearing this at the beach.
I've seen underwear that actually have a nut sack built into them. Not after 50 years.
I can't be doing this, bro. I can't be doing away with the notion that all men are created equal. So I can't be rolling like that.
I'm going to do a shirt that says men have to have penises again.
Is it going to have lots of cocks on it?
Yes. Because they love the cock.
Well, we took this sideways already, huh?
Yeah, I mean, how did we get here again?
So
okay, here's the question.
What's the most interesting thing that's happened in your guys' week so far?
I met Paul Wheaton in person, and that
dude, does he look like he sounds?
He's lots of energy. And I watched him speak. That was just crazy. He was like maniacal all over the stage. Very great. Good, very good speech. Also got to sit down with him for dinner, and he dialed it back a bit at the table. But yeah, he's just like that. And lots of good ideas. That guy knows his stuff. Really interesting talking to him. He's got a big old permaculture jamboree going on at his place at Wheaton Labs this summer, and that sounds like a really fun time.
He reminds me of the 1, 2, 3, 4 guy. You know who I'm talking about?
It'd be cool to meet him.
All his website domains were 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh yeah, Stephen Harris.
Yeah, tell Paul Wheaton, don't try to come up here to these mountains, man, because there'll be Sasquatch sightings everywhere. Like it ain't already. That's a pretty big dude, I heard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's giant. Like I'm used to being around tall people, but he's taller than the tallest people I know. And then he's,
So I got in the skid steer. It started raining. We're planting all those fodder trees. The swales are all in place. Everything flows. I got 1,000 fodder trees we're putting in, and it started thunderstorming. So I'm like, well, I can get in the tractor and move some mulch. 2 minutes in the tractor starts squealing something terrible, like an AC pump is locked up. I get out, and there is black smoke billowing out of the engine bay. So I get a fire extinguisher, and I'm like, I'm going to lose this tractor, skid steer, brand new skid steer. So I come back out, no fire. I'm like, okay, I'm done. It's dark. I go to bed thinking I've blown the motor up, something catastrophic. We open the engine bay the next morning, open the engine bay up, and we hear meow, meow, and there's 2 little kittens. Mama cat has moved her kittens in there. Mama cat tried to get out of the engine compartment, and it decapitated her, broke 2 belts, and took 2 huge blades off of the fan blades, and has totally failed this tractor, rendered it useless. Imagine how many people have taken off in an airplane and had that happen. Because when I posted this, I had it no less than a dozen people that are like, it has completely shut my entire truck down. It shut down our semi trucks. Like, everybody has a cat story that's catastrophically made a vehicle fail. Imagine if you were in the air when that happened.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I'm glad that didn't happen, because yesterday my wife went skydiving. It was like a birthday present. I mean, I don't need to do that. I've done all I ever want to do out of the C-130s, C-5s, and all that stuff in the Army. And as a smoke jumper, I've done all that I ever care to do. But it was the most nervous, harrowing thing of my life, because it was my niece and my wife that were doing it. And now that you said that, you're saying, man, what if that happened in an airplane? Because I'm thinking of every possible thing that could possibly. I never once thought about those types of things when I was jumping out. But when you got your most precious cargo up there and you're looking up and you're thinking, just deploy, just please shoot, deploy, you're sitting there thinking, and I'm like, man, okay, John, I'm glad I'm glad there was no cats on that drop zone, bro.
Are they strap hanging, or are they jumping tandem?
No, they jumped tandem. But here's the crazy thing about it. I was going to actually put this video out on YouTube maybe later in the week, is that as I'm sitting there talking to this guy, I'm pretty much the only one waiting on the drop zone. And I asked one of the guys who owns the place, I said, so what's the craziest thing? Why did I ask this question? I don't know. I said, what is the craziest thing that's ever happened out here? And he just kind of looks up, takes a cigarette, and says, well, we had people bounce on this drop zone. I'm like, dude, dude, why did I ask? Yeah. And he says, yeah, a couple of weeks ago, we had a guy first jump out, decided he was going to land in these trees over here, pretty much, beat up every bone in his body. But, everything panned out great. So that was the highlight of my week. And if it gets any look, that's all the excitement I care to deal with in a week. Outside of some weird, had some weirdo text me, or not text me, but email me, sending my address to me, basically stating, hey, with some of the things you talk about, you might want to reconsider that. He's pretending to be nice. Yeah. But yeah, one of those people saying, yeah, with some of the things you talk about, here's how easily your address is able to be found. And I'm like, all right, that's how you want to roll? Yeah, so outside of that, it's been a pretty laid-back week.
Right on.
Yeah, I had one of those address messages, too, that apparently an address label was in one of my videos with name and address on it, which is also listed on my website. So yeah, it's not really secret. And the person said, I was just trying to look out for you. And I was like, really, you don't want to come here if you're not welcome. You really don't want to come here. That's
I
all
like when they try to look out for you in public with 1,000 people online.
Yeah.
Mm.
It says at minute X. I'm like, ooh, uh-oh. Well, it's on my website. I teach classes here. I don't know what else to say. So.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've talked about being an adherent to the non-aggression principle, but they somehow mistake that to mean nonviolent. There is a difference between the two. Look, the motto is, and maybe we ought to do a shirt like this: don't start no SH and there won't be no IT. I'm not looking for
extreme escalation of force.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
extreme escalation of violence.
You come rolling up here and you're uninvited. Well, Yeah. So anyway, getting one of those, that was the first time I ever got one of those. So I'm thinking, okay, all right. So I need to double down. That's all I'm taking away from that.
So how's that sheep tractor working out?
Man, it's a beauty. In fact, my wife is going to do a video, I think, hopefully in the near future, because she welded that whole thing from top to bottom, every bit of it. And, I didn't realize, maybe Nicole, you could speak to this a little bit. Apparently there's a lot of people, guys in particular, fathers in particular, telling women that they're not capable of doing this type of stuff. And so she was going to do something of a, she saw that when she was going to welding school, used some of that GI Bill money for something good instead of a college, a degree in worthlessness. So she, became a welder and everything. And she put that all together. Sheep Tractor's doing great. But also, there's so many women out there, and I get a lot of these emails saying, I wish I could do this. And I think, like so many others out there, probably been told their whole lives, oh, this isn't the custom or place for a woman. And I'm hoping to shatter a lot of that, because you know what? Go back to World War II. Who was building all that stuff the guys were using over there?
Rosie.
There you go. Rosie the Riveter. Everybody's seen it. There you go. So Nicole, maybe you can hit on that. I know you do already, but maybe dispel some of this nonsense. People telling their young girls that they can't do this stuff. Well, my wife does it every single day.
Well,
yeah, it's fully nonsense. And there are differences between men and women, and I see it in men have a better advantage strength wise. But what that means is, as a woman, when I'm doing heavy activities, I've learned leverage. I've learned how to leverage things. I went to weightlifting classes to learn how to make the best use of my body when I'm in that situation. And I think there are a lot of fathers telling daughters they can't do stuff, or they're trying to help them out. And that's great. I'm lucky because my dad basically said, whatever you want to do, try it. I'll show you how to do it. So he showed me how to do remodeling things. He showed me how to change a tire on a car. He showed me a whole bunch of stuff that has made it so it doesn't even occur to me not to try something. I don't know how to weld, but it would not occur to me not to try to learn how to weld. You know what I mean? I was on my way down here, had a light out in my car and needed to replace the light bulb, which on my car, apparently you have to take off the whole front bumper to do that, which didn't actually happen on the way down. But I took the light out and tried to reach down there to be able to get it and couldn't quite get it. I'm going to try it again when I have some peace. But I'm not giving up. You just go to YouTube. You look up how to do it. You give it a try. Sometimes you do. I've built 3 chicken tractors before I went to John Willis's and looked at his and built the 4th chicken tractor, which Tactical really built that one, but redesigned the whole approach. It's just try. I mean, it's so sad to watch people talk about trying and not try. We can do it. Gender doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, women have run homesteads for hundreds of years while their men were off earning money, sent off to war. You get sent off to war and only women are home. Guess who's having to move the cattle by themselves?
I would suspect that a girl asking her dad if she can weld, he probably doesn't weld. I would guess. And nowadays, why are we asking permission for anything, right? If you see somebody doing something that you want to do at a level higher than you're doing it, then by all means have the conversation. But why are we asking permission literally to do anything? We've got a Miller welder. I've got a Hobart welder. We've got mixed gas welders. My son went and bought some little yellow box off Amazon. And I'm like, you've lost your mind. A couple $100. He buys this like no-name welder, welds all kinds of shit together. It's what we're running right now when we weld some stuff. And it's right on YouTube. There's a review for everything. There's a how-to for a couple $100. you could, in 2 days, that thing could be at your house and you could be putting metal together tonight. It might not stay together, but you're going to learn some stuff putting that metal together. And I promise you, if you watch an hour of YouTube video and you go weld, you're going to weld tonight better than I weld. Like I don't weld. We have all the stuff. But why are we asking permission? We are so stuck on telling motherfuckers they can't do things when it's just because you yourself don't want to put forth because you're lazy, right? That's really what it comes down to. Oh, you can't freeze dry those candies and sell those. You can't sell that goat milk. Oh no, you can't make that cheese. You can't sell that soap. What do you mean? We've been doing that 35 years. We've been doing it. Well, who's to say? All of a sudden somebody shows up and in public wants to make a big deal about it and really I think what a lot of it comes down to, especially with men, right? You get a couple dudes in the group, a couple husband, wives, whatever, and one of them just decides he's going to pick up this new hobby, this new skill, this new income. It makes those other guys look bad, and the wives talk or the wives watch, right? Well, why is John at 8 o'clock on a video for 2 hours when you're on a video game for 2 hours? But you're the one saying that you can't do these things or we can't afford these things.
I couldn't agree more, but going back to what you said about asking permission, I get all these other emails. I mean, a lot of them in desperation as of late, saying, I don't have land to grow food. Like you said, why are you asking permission? How much public space is there out there? Yep. I agree with Joel Salatin. You would not have a hungry belly on this planet if we just use the sides of our interstates to graze cattle. Okay. You could do that. You could run your cattle, you could run your sheep, and then you could run chickens right behind them all. In fact, we'd have so much food, it would make your head spin. But what about those public places? When I was in Kansas, when I lived there, I was putting in guerrilla food forests at the Leavenworth. You can go there right now, and I'll bet you money it's still there. Leavenworth VA Hospital, all over that place, there are food systems everywhere. Probably very, very, in fact, I've showed recently in a video of my land back in Texas. We haven't looked at that place for 3 years and it's still thriving. Fruit trees, nitrogen fixtures, everything everywhere. And it's off and running, a food system, but people drive right by it because they don't even know it exists. But what about those public places, whether it's a sidewalk, a place between, let's say, the sidewalk and the street, or let's say those other places, like Joel Salatin also said, people are growing weed in national parks. Nobody ever thought about growing tomatoes.
Yep.
Or how about all these other places? Ask for forgiveness. Don't ask permission. Not at this point.
What's the worst they're going to say? What's the worst they're going to do?
What are they going to do with it?
Charged with growing a tomato on state land.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to say.
What you going to do? I got a pocket constitution and my homeboys do too. See, that's the problem here.
I don't know. I just came here in their tomato plants, so I just started cultivating them. Somebody must have dropped a tomato out here on a hike.
Well, people better get loose. They better get loose or get lost, because I'm telling you, with the latest numbers that just came out regarding the grain figures, typically for winter wheat, you're going to get anywhere between 35 to 40 bushels per acre. Well, guess what? They're starting to harvest, and guess what they're already seeing? Between 0 and 5 bushels per acre. Okay, let me say that again. From 35 to 40 to 0 to 5. That is extraordinary. So we better all be thinking about really clever ways in which we can either grow the food, put back food. And that's why, as of late on our channel, that's why we've been really, really focusing on, okay, so you got a nitrogen shortage. Okay, well, can you make a compost pile? We'll show you how to do that sort of thing. There's ways to circumvent every bit of this, and there's ways to access land, whether it's your neighbor down the street who isn't doing anything with that lawn, or whether it's some place where it's like there was a parole office next to the place I used to work in Texas, 2 acres. You can graze sheep, pigs, cows. I can hide pigs up in the woods. Nobody'd ever know it. I mean, there's so many different places. We better start thinking outside the box. And that's what that's exactly why I'm looking forward. That's why I can't wait to get to anything called a self-reliance festival, especially in these times. I can't think of anything that's more appropriate in these times.
Curtis Stone is big on that, right? Using your neighbors. Like he was when he put the drone up, there were skyscrapers around where he was at.
Yeah.
And his market garden, I mean, he was doing $1 million a year out of that in the neighbor's yard. It's insane. Everything's doable. And even if we did grow on the side of freeways, right? Even with the exhaust and the runoff, it's going to be better than all that bullshit they're vaccinating all them cows with right now. And your videos are noticeable, man. Like I see the focus change in the last, 60 days on those things. Like I watch your videos every morning when I'm on the treadmill. I watch your stuff. That's how I saw the sheep one. I want to bring in some sheep. We want to do a sheep tractor. We just got a badass aluminum chicken tractor. And I want to run goats and then 3 days behind them, put chickens in there and, just start building this soil up. Building grass, really. I've been watching a lot of Judy's stuff.
You want to run sheep, not goats.
Yeah, sheep. You're right. I absolutely want no goats. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's like, no goats.
I thought I wanted dwarfers, but I think the Catadins or I don't know. There's 12 different kinds of hair sheep.
Yeah.
Katahdin, St. Croix. There's any number.
That's it.
And John, I'm here to tell you, I've said it before, and everybody I've recently at Renewed Homestead, it's a place down the road from me. They had a bunch of sheep, and one of the ways, I'm already going to be processing their animals anyway, so I just as well do a class. Well, a lot of people are like, well, I've had sheep before, and I'm like, no. You haven't had this. In fact, if I did a blind taste test on you and I put Kobe beef in front of you, along with a really good young hair sheep, and I did a blind taste test on you, I'll guarantee you 8 out of 10 people would probably pick the hair sheep over that Kobe beef. I mean, maybe not in every case, but you get the point. And you don't get the lanolin in the meat. It's tender. It's the most perfect, and it's easy to do. And guess what? I can take a breeding pair of sheep, since it's going to take me on a grass-fed cow 28 months. Well, what if I had just had a breeding pair of sheep? Do you have any idea how many times over you would produce the amount of meat that you would on one cow? Because I could process them every 6 months. The meat's fantastic, easy to process, easy to teach, easy in so many different ways, easy on the land.
They survive on grass.
You can move the thing if you have to. You can turn the meat over. Right. You didn't have to say anything more than a cow does this and doesn't do this, and a sheep will do this and can feed itself through the winter.
That's right. Now there's going to be other downsides too with it, but that's why we don't get the big wool sheep. You want to stick, especially on a homesteader level, you want to get hair sheep. They're smaller, but you have less inputs in them. Like Nicole said, they're going to eat grass. They're going to eat just about everything a goat will eat, but without the management hurdles. You're going to have all the
hurdles. That's a great way to say it.
Yeah, that's what you're going to have all the great stuff. Sorry, y'all, my big Great Pyrenees, the one that looks after our sheep. You can see his tail right here. Come here, Milk Boy. Milk Boy. There he is.
Live on the Tuesday Live. We have a new guest. Say hello.
Say hello, Milk Boy. He's named after one of my Army buddies. But anyway, he goes Old Testament on anything that wants to mess with the chickens, sheep, cow, you name it. And that's exactly what he's meant to do. He's the most fearful thing at night around here. And he earns his keep. But anyway, John, I can't wait to see your place, man, because, if you want, man, we could almost do a de facto permaculture design for you if you want to hear it, or, some of these things down there. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, we'll do something for sure. You know what? I don't have anything here. I don't have any comfrey.
What?
I don't have any. I mean, maybe I do, and I don't know. I don't have any plantain. I don't have any comfrey.
Brother, say no more, man. We sell so much comfrey. In fact, we're sold out right now, but I'm going to keep. We sell roots typically, but for you, we're going to bring some crowns, and those kick off way, way faster. You'll be in business in no time. Yeah. So everything you need to know about this stuff, and honestly, we'll get you squared away, bro. No fear on that.
Do you want plantain, John?
Why do I not want plantain?
Okay, I got lots of seed right now. It's just coming on.
No, that's a question.
I'll start scattering it at your house if you want. Every time I'm there.
Why would I not want it?
I can't think of. Some people find it unsightly.
Yeah.
If I need it gone, I'll just kill it with fire.
Okay.
No, kill it with sheep.
Yeah. Man, we had all of a sudden last year, we had like a couple of these yellow flowers. Guys call them buttercups. They call them all kinds of stuff. Nothing eats these things, apparently. I pull a rabbit tractor over them, and the rabbits don't eat that. They eat everything around them, right? So I read you have to cut it or you got to chemically kill it. So I killed it outside the wire, outside the fences with RD42, whatever that purple stuff bottle is. And it killed it in like 2 days. It was just like withered up. But on the inside, I've been mowing it, man. And there are, as far as the eye can see this year, everywhere in Benton County is covered in this stuff. But we do have guys come in. They've came in and rounded it up. And we do have tons of fields all of a sudden with corn popping up yesterday, I saw. So we are planting corn around here. It is going in, but the load is going to be way lower, just like with the wheat.
Yeah, everything's going to be, and that's exactly what we're trying to teach here. I mean, and look, y'all, if we are at, man, I'm not about trying to spread gloom and doom or anything, because there is an off-ramp. The off-ramp isn't necessarily a worse place. It's just another option. It's in fact a better option. Just like you guys were talking about Spearco a minute ago. I love his motto. It's a way to live if times get tougher, even if they don't. I mean, whether the whole world's going sideways, who cares at the end of the day if I can go out here and I can turn that plantain into meat. I can turn that goldenrod into meat. I can turn that grass, and that's exactly why we need to look at it that way. Everything you see that's green is a solar collector. It's there for a reason. So the best way to get rid of plantain or anything else you don't want is mob grazing. Easy to do. I can show you how to do it, and that's why going back to that sheep tractor, if you don't know how to already do it, it's a really good barometer for teaching yourself how to properly graze. Just when you get out of the gates, no matter the area, let's say you have 5 sheep. You have them in an enclosure. Let's say it's a fence, or let's say it's a sheep tractor. When you put them on that grass or plantain or goldenrod or whatever the case may be, here's all you need to do. Here's how you develop your grazer's eye. Let them eat a third, they stomp a third, and you leave a third. That's the most basic way of doing it. If you do that, just that alone, and give them a rotation of at least 45 days until you set them back there, you will not believe what happens. That ground that's as hard as woodpecker lips is now going to be like you're walking on a trampoline, and it happens quickly. It's exactly the kind of place I bought. And this is the place we have been buying for years. We buy places that are completely jacked up from the feet up, and we turn them into lush, beautiful pastures, exactly the way nature intended it, and using animals to do all the work. It can be done. It's easy.
Yeah, I see it when we fly the drone. We see it just from where the chickens and rabbits were. Like you see it, I mean, in 30 days you see it. Like the grass, the clover, and the grass. It's because when we move, I seed. I have a hand seeder, and I put in white clover, red clover, deer plot, fescue. I put a bunch of different stuff in there, and that grass just literally 50 feet away. It's like 5 shades of greener.
John, I'll even show you another way where you won't even ever have to do that again. The only time I ever recommend anybody seed is if you do what I do with pigs sometimes, where if there's a thorny mess over there and I need them to get rid of it, well, they're going to be there a lot longer. So to beat those unfriendly weed regimes, I'll go through and I'll seed. But in your case, if you're dealing with a pasture, if you just take a third, if you do the third method I was just telling you about, if you just did that, you're going to find an awesome phenomenon unfolds. You're going to see a lot less of what we call pioneer species. And in its place, you're going to see the natural, you already have a seed bank there of natural seed that are already in that place. They are perfectly suited. And the only reason you don't see them is because the ground just needs a little massaging. Yep. Yeah, it just needs a little sexual healing, man. It just needs a little dun dun dun. You know, that's all it needs, man. Just a little 5-minute buffet number here and there. Ain't that right, milk boy? And and believe it or not, you'll be shocked, stunned, and astonished what can happen in record time where you'll never have to seed. It's already in your seed bank. You just got to make it come through.
And when we're using a third and trampling a third and we leave the third, you don't get the parasite load because they're not down there in the manure. So that rather than eating that manure and taking in all that parasite, that manure becomes fertilizer and it just gets beaten down even more.
And you're composting in place. You're doing the easiest form of compost right there. Your chickens and rabbits are already doing it. When they drop that, they're dropping basically straight up nitrogen into that soil. it combines with the carbon, and then bam, the second that happens, the reaction kicks off. Now all of a sudden, to reduce that parasite load for, let's say, your sheep or whatever the animal may be before they come back around there, well, you have rain that falls from the sky. You have sunlight, which is the world's best disinfectant. And you have all these things unfolding, replicating what used to happen about 300 years ago in the very ground that all of us are sitting on right now. Used to happen with buffalo, with migratory birds. All we're doing is taking what happened in nature and replicating it. And there is nothing more satisfying. I mean, absolutely, the best part of what I do is when I go out there and I move these animals. Like this morning, we just moved the pigs, we moved the sheep, cow, chickens, the other chickens, and everything else. The most satisfying thing you get is when you hear utter silence from these animals because they are grubbing.
Yep.
There's no better feeling. There's no better feeling. You're like, if I was a pig, I would want to be there. If I was a cow, I'd want to be there. And it's just beautiful. So that's what I want to do. And like you said, John, you're right, man. If you've seen a change in a lot of the videos we've done, it's been more along a preparedness note and obviously a permaculture and homestead note, but they don't have to be mutually exclusive. They can all coexist in the same space, and they should. Yeah. And it's easy to do.
And you can have more of one than the other to fit your life right now. And if you have a sampling and you've got a tasting of the other, when times change, you can easily scale that. Like if you have one, it's easy to build the other. It doesn't have to be all homestead and farm, right? It can still be, you can still have a foot in the city. I get it. I have and as far as people saying I can't, produce food because I don't own property. I have a friend that, well, she works in Washington, D.C., and she lives in an apartment, and she uses these GrowTech containers, which are a self-watering system. And she has a little balcony, but it's like a jungle. It's like going to the zoo and walking through a jungle walk on her patio. And she shows me these pictures of just Rubbermaid containers just full of tomatoes and cucumber and squash. And I go, come clean. Like, where are you really growing that? She's like, I swear it's all on this patio right here. And she's growing an amazing amount of stuff. So a buddy of mine said a friend of mine just bought an amazing house, right? He shouldn't have bought it where he bought it, but it's a badass house in Nashville. It's on a hill. They're putting a deck in, and they're doing planter containers all around the deck. There'll be a jacuzzi out there. It'll be beautiful, but they will have a bunch of soil where they can grow food right there. And then on the back side, it's just wildlife, right? It's wild. So, everything's, there is no limit back there.
That sounds like good squash growing territory on the back
side.
Yes,
kiwi too. Squash, kiwi, any vining stuff that go up trees.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, Tactical is at the point in the Holler Homestead where we've seeded everything where we want it in the grow beds. So now he's putting random seeds all over the holler, and we end up with these like Franken squash vines that I pop. I'm like, where did you come from?
Yeah,
it's part of the adventure of it all.
Yeah, we had.
Oh, go ahead, John.
We had pumpkins for last year. We brought in pumpkins and put them on every fence post. We had 120 pumpkins. And I left them out there through the winter. They rotted down. And then the cardinals, for some reason, the red cardinals, they eat the most of those pumpkin seeds. It is just an attractant. And then it rains, and those seeds end up 10 acres away out here, and then they grow more pumpkins. So we have pumpkins that grow in the wood pile, and then when the water rushes through the culvert, we have pumpkins that grow all the way up the bank. There'll be just 20 pumpkins out on the road. You're looking up, you're like, are those pumpkins up there on that cliff? And that's exactly what they are, because the vines just grow crazy and they grow up through the trees.
That's the beauty of what you just described. There is the consummate definition of permaculture. That is it right there. You're taking that, what most people would think was a waste system, and turning it into something very, very beneficial. And that's also something we're doing where, like here in these mountains, Justin from Metcalf Mills, it's crazy. This dude's like 8th generation mountain man. And he was saying, yeah, we're growing some tomatoes over here all over the barn. And I thought that was just his way of saying tomatoes. No, what he was really saying, okay, Nicole, you apparently already know, because I'd never, when he said tomatoes, I just thought it was some way of saying tomatoes. No, it's a perennial tomato that grows up here in these mountains. and they grow wild. So it seems, and they're like the size of grape tomatoes.
Yeah, they're little.
So, right, but they're flavorful. So my question is, why am I going through the hassle when I could do exactly what John did, where you stick them up on the fence post and you create something of a perennial system? Why can't you do the same thing? So you can sit here, get a mouthful of them Tommy toes, chew them up, spit them out in the yard if you want to. So you got food growing in all of the unsuspected, unbelievable places that people would never, ever think to look. And because they are specifically adapted for this region, I mean, there's so many things like that, but we think, this is part of going back to what I've been saying lately. We got everything backwards. I had to go to the grocery store for something the other day. You know what I noticed? There's 8 brands of toilet paper and 2 types of tomatoes. Now, I can't think of what is more backwards. Okay, so my butt needs a diversity of choice, but my gut doesn't. I mean, I guess like that guy said, it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a sick society, because that kind of demonstrates it right there, because they've done all the market research. They know that people want more booty choices than they do tomato choices at the end of the day.
What's crazier is the amount, like, if you think about where these tomatoes come from compared to where the toilet paper comes from, how do you buy the tomatoes so inexpensively when you buy the toilet? Like, it's just crazy that the cost scale is so off on those things. And it won't be long. I say 6 months to a year. When you go to the grocery store, you're not going to have 16 kinds of apples. You're going to have 1 apple.
That's
and you're
right.
going to be happy to get it. That's how, when USSR collapsed, people stood in line, and you had to bribe somebody, or you had to know somebody, and you would stand in line all day to get to the store. And when you got in the store, they had flour on one day, or they had potatoes on one day, right? The store wasn't there. The people who had the hookup, they always had the stuff. But for the most part, it's not there. And I mean, it really seems like that's how they're trying to move this. What do we have? We have 80, it was 83 food production plants in the United States have burnt down now. Burnt down, blown up, catastrophic failure, like 50%, gone, demolished, right? 3 of them struck by aircraft at this point now. I mean, that's a huge number. That's a big, big number.
Okay, we have a clarifying question from the audience for you, Billy. The 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 rule on sheep. There's a misunderstanding that K-Monk's trying to understand. Do you overlap a third as you move it, or how does that work? What does that look like when you're trying to manage the pasture that way?
Hey, sorry about the helicopter going overhead. Okay.
It's all good.
For us.
I don't even know what just happened, y'all. This computer started talking to me. I don't even know what happened. Okay, about the third thing. Okay, imagine a big square, and you have animals in that square. It's untouched. There's forage out there. There's grass. There's weeds. There's everything. So whatever your animal is, and you don't want to make it too big. I'll cover that in a moment. Just pick an arbitrary space, and you put your animals in there. When you look at that forage, and then you see a third of it gone, a third of it trampled, and you see a third of it left, that's exactly what you want to see. And then it's time to move them. So you can do, I'm glad you asked about the overlap method, because that's exactly what we do when it comes to pigs. Because with the pigs, we don't necessarily have the benefit of opening a door and getting them into a new pasture. So all we do is take a third of it and move that third. We kind of slinky the fence around, because pigs are a little more wily. I'll get a little closer because that wind for some reason just started kicking up. Pigs are a little more wily than other animals. Now they're easy to get back in. But yeah, that's essentially it. You can just, when you see it, you see a third of it gone, a third of it trampled, and you see a third standing, it's time to move on. Now there's other methods where there's a high intensity grazing method where you can have them eat that thing plumb down to the ground. Now here's the difference. And that's, by the way the buffalo largely did it. With that method, you're going to give it a 90-day rest period. There's the big difference. So they have a longer period of rest, but it was a greater degree of impact. I'll put it this way. No matter how you do it, even if you go half and half, it's better than leaving them sit eternally, and it's better than moving them 5 times a day. So at least, on the very least, go with a third, a third, a third. Now, here's why you want to make sure you don't give them too big a space, because it's no different than taking a kid and dropping them off at a buffet. Okay, let's say they go to some jacked up buffet. There's ice cream over here. There's this, there's meat, there's pasta, whatever. What's that kid going to do? The kid's going to go right at the ice cream bar, and they're going to stay there and go
the whole time. Yeah.
Your animals do the same exact thing. If you give them too big a space, all they're going to do is pluck out of that pasture. Oh, hey, I really like this. I'm going to go eat this. And then what's going to happen is they're going to wind up killing some of your most beneficial forage out there. Now, if you keep them in small cells, they're going to be like, okay, tastes great, but less filling, but I'm going to eat it anyway because I'm hungry. So they're going to eat things not necessarily toxic to them, but they're going to eat the things that they're like that kid where you fix the plate for them instead of saying, go fix your own plate at the buffet. That's the difference. So you don't want to make the area too big. And then the last thing, let me say, this applies mostly for pigs. Do not, if you can help it, ever leave an animal, unless you're doing a deep bedding method, never leave them in the same spot for more than 21 days. That's when you're really going to have some parasite problems, okay? That easily happens with pigs because generally pigs stay in a place longer than your other animals. You don't move them every day. So just remember that 21-day rule, just like the 21-foot rule, just apply it to days. Don't ever let them sit there more than 21 days or you're going to have some problems, nephew.
So eat a third, trample a third. That does not mean I have 30-inch grass and I want them to eat it down to 20 inches.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Okay. Basically, it's been nipped on because if it's a cow, they're going to take away the seed heads and stuff. So it's easy to tell. Sheep, they're going to eat a little bit lower. And so it's going to be harder to tell. So you know what? I'll give you another problem you do. If you don't know what that is exactly, here's the easiest way to do it. And here's the way we have to do it right now because I don't have enough stocking density for the land we live on. I need way more cows and I need way more sheep. Here's the problem. You can find bin Laden in the bottom of the ocean, supposedly, easier than I can find good stock right now. So rather than putting awful stock on good land, I'm going to wait. And I'm going to wait a little bit longer because I guarantee somebody who's tied into that grain market has some really good animals that they are not going to be able to afford to feed here before long. So I'm going to snatch it up for, a song and dance, and then I'll bring them out. So what we have to do in those cases where your animals don't make enough impact, go out there with a weed eater and cut everything off. If it's your sheep, it doesn't matter. Cut everything off about shin height and then let your chickens in. Plus, you're going to have to do that anyway, because if you bring chickens in behind and if it's tall grass, chickens are not going to dig it. They're not going to go out. They're not going to do what chickens do. So you're going to have to bring that grass down. Best if you let your animals do it. But if they don't, then you have to fill in the gap on that. So knock it down with your weed eater. Bring your chickens out, let them go, and then so on and so forth. And look, you're going to make colossal mistakes doing this, but it's never that big mistake. Just keep them moving, and you can't go wrong.
It's not
even big mistakes can be reversed. That's the thing.
That's right.
And that's why this not willing to try thing becomes bothersome.
Absolutely.
And it's not a big a mistake as just leaving it and doing nothing.
Yeah,
that's right. And these, just like Nicole said, let's say you screwed up and because I overgraze all the time. I'm glad you brought that up. There are times I overgraze strategically, and I do it all the time with pigs because I got them in places where there are thorns and thickets. And let me tell y'all something. If you ever wonder whether or not your soil is good, if you see thorns, I can almost guarantee you about 95% of the time your soil's jacked up. If you see thorns, if you see multiflora rows, if you see thorns, that's an open indication that you got problems in that soil. So best way to remediate that, put the pigs on it, let them wipe it out completely. And then I'm going to go in there with something that will outcompete the weeds. For example, right now, in where you guys are right now, one of the best ways to do that, if I let pigs overgraze, the go-to every single time, cowpea and buckwheat. The cowpea is going to put the nitrogen in the soil. The buckwheat is going to provide the structure. You go out there, seed heavily with cowpea and buckwheat. Anywhere you got bare soil, you come back, you just, first of all, it's going to outcompete anything that wants to go in around it. And it is going to remediate that soil in record time. So now, all of a sudden, I had pigs in this area. Well, I'm going to go in there, chop that cowpea and buckwheat down. Maybe I want to put a food forest in. Maybe I want to put an orchard in. Maybe I want to replace it with some, real deal perennial grass. You got options that way. So yeah, you can overgraze strategically, but that's more of a PhD understanding. Right now, I know people are looking for more basic stuff.
So if I have an acre of grass that I mow it at about 4 inches. Could I go out there with cowpea and buckwheat and just broadcast it and it'll just come up?
Not if that grass is thick. You only want to do that is if you have soil. First of all, with a cowpea, let me back up. Make sure you hit it with some sort of inoculant. They make a legume inoculant. It's this black stuff. It's real slimy, and it puts out a mycorrhizal fungal. So let it sit in that. There's instructions. So make sure you do that first with your cowpea. But when you do that, it can't be in a standing set of grass already. It has to be basically dirt. It's where you're going to have to put it. Yeah.
Just cut it at 0.
I don't even know. If you still have a stand of grass there, it's probably still not going to work. Yeah. You're probably going to have to till it up if it isn't already. But I use that basically as a remediation for when pigs have been in there. But when I'm sorry,
run your livestock on it until they've made it into a toxic waste dump for you. Like they've just eaten everything, and then that's literally what we're doing with the pig pasture right now, where I had to leave the pigs too long.
Can we tractor pigs?
You can, but here's where it's tricky. You can when it comes to guinea hogs. In fact, there's a guy in California that I know of that does that. I think it's inhumane, personally, because he's got the guinea hogs are extraordinary. Okay, let me back up a little bit. Okay, there's 2 types of pigs I raise. I raise some for fat, and I raise some for meat. The pigs I'm looking at right off my porch right now, those are Yorkshire. They're basically for meat. Now, I raise guinea hogs exclusively for fat. I will say that it is without a doubt the best tasting pork on planet Earth, bar none. And I've had those highfalutin Iberian pigs before, believe me. Nothing tastes better to me than a guinea hog. Now, I raise those specifically for lard. But here's the double-edged sword with those. They're so awesome in being able to convert not pasture necessarily, but let's say weeds and stuff into fat, that if you feed them too much, they're gonna overdo it. So this guy basically has them in tractors a little bit bigger than their bodies. So they're not able to do all the things that I think a pig should do. They should be out there rooting. They should be able to do this. They should, because every time you make them go up and down these mountains here, I'm increasing the quality of their hams. I'm doing extraordinary things by doing that. So you can tractor them, but I don't know that I've ever seen anybody do it like in the size of a chicken tractor. I haven't seen it done, but I know that it can be done. Problem is, pigs being what they are, they will root under it. Even a little pig, even if you put them in a tractor, even if you stapled it to the ground, I think they're going to find their way out of it unless you electrify it.
Got it.
So really the best way to do pigs is, I think, you can use a hot wire. You can train them to that. There's a way to do it. And I've done it and I do it. And then there's also that pig netting you can get from Premier One. That's also a good way too. But yeah, that's a de facto way of tractoring, I guess. And it teaches you, the cool thing about some of these ways, like the pig netting and the fencing, is that it teaches you the consequences of grazing, whether good or bad. So that's the beauty of being able to use, whether it's a sheep tractor, a chicken tractor, pig fencing, sheep fencing, all those things. There's some really, really awesome methods that you can learn just by putting them within those things. And like Nicole said, even if you screw it up and overgraze, it is easily able to be remediated.
Is your sheep tractor 10 by 20? That's about what it looked like?
No, this one is the ones who invented it were this Anabaptist community down in Waco, Texas, and theirs is a 16 by 16. And so I bought one from that guy when we lived in Texas, and I ain't kidding you, y'all. I've had cars that didn't cost this much.
Yeah, I'm right there with this chicken tractor.
I mean, this thing was expensive. Well, when I went and got some scrap steel and had Michelle weld it, we made ours 14 by 14. Now, here's where we made improvements. Having had his sheep tractor, yeah, it does great if it's on flat ground. But I live in the mountains, man. I need something that one person can be able to move around all by themselves in the mountains. So we made it with 1-inch angle, and it would have been easier to do had we been able to get some inexpensive aluminum. But we used some 1-inch angle. Michelle welded it together. So we basically made a 14 by 14, which is sufficient. Made it about 1/3 the weight way more maneuverable and way sturdier. So yeah, that 14 by 14 is plenty. You could easily you could have 4 very happy dorpers, and that's one of the bigger of the hair sheet. You could have 4 very happy dorpers in something like that, or you could even run 6. You're just going to have to move it a couple of times a day, depending on the forage you have.
You got wheels on it?
Yeah, there's one in each corner. There's 10-inch casters in each corner. I really need to do a PDF on this thing so people can replicate it, because the one that came from the sheep tractor company, it's great if you're on wide open pasture, but you could actually take something, this 14 by 14, you could make this thing work on a 1 acre lot pretty easy.
You should sell it, the directions, the instructions for it. Put it on Amazon where people can just buy it.
Yeah, we really ought to do that. We even thought about doing some of that sort of thing with chicken tractors as well.
Yeah.
We've taken a, if somebody ever comes up, here's $1 million idea for anybody out there willing to do it. I don't have time for it. Come up with the IKEA version of a chicken tractor. You're going to make a killing.
Yeah, Jack was working. He had a guy that was doing they could flat pack it. They were laser cutting all the wood to do like quail stuff with.
It's possible with a chicken tractor. I think a lot of people think it's, easy. It's just as easy to go to the hardware store with a list, but these days it isn't. So it's even the better time for it. Okay, we got a question about pole beans. What's your opinion of the three of you? Green beans, should green bean vines, so should pole beans be on the ground or on a trellis? I've been told both, basically, from different people. I will say my opinion on that is when I grow green beans for a bean yield, I prefer to have the pole beans climb the poles, because it's a whole lot easier for me to manage it, to harvest it. And at my house, I get pest pressure about 12 inches off the ground. So the first part of the vine, the leaves get pest pressure, and above 12 inches, they usually don't bother it. So I have found, for me personally, at my property, that pole beans on the pole is the magic solution. Yep. And I don't have to be all bent over to harvest, right? It's up on the pole.
I'll tell you another way of doing it. 2 ways, I think, a permaculture solution. One of them, I don't know that we invented, but it's what we do is, okay, so you got a fruit tree out there. Why can't you use it for your pole? It's also, it's a bean, which means it is a legume, which means it takes atmospheric nitrogen, sticks it down in the soil. So that could be for the benefit of the soil around my fruit tree. So we use them. I think we released a video not long ago about doing that very thing. Whether it's a tomato, you can do it there. If you have a tree, why have things grow in isolation is my point. Why not stack functions? Here's another way. You got a standing crop of corn, do the Three Sisters out there. That's you're using that corn stalk as a substrate for your beans. And then of course you grow, what else goes with the Three Sisters?
It's squash, beans, and corn.
Right. So why not do it that way if you can? So, the natives in this country were doing this. They were doing permaculture before we even invented the word. And that's all it really is that we're rediscovering things. So yeah, you can use a pole if you want to. Use a tree. Why not?
So I've got a few 100 feet of fruit trees, and I spaced them out 10 feet. To do it again, I would definitely space them 16. And I mow through there, right? Why do I mow through there? Because it looks pretty. Does it matter that the weeds and the grass are there? Is it really taking anything away from a tree? Once the tree's been there for a few years, does it matter?
It's yes and no. How old are your trees?
Years, several.
Okay, how tall?
I mean, they're
okay. So they're
dwarf, but I mean they're big trees.
Okay, they're established. So
yeah.
What I like to do in those situations, and what did you say your spacing once again was between them?
10 feet, and they're staggered, so I can get a mower through there. But when they're under fruit load, you cannot get a mower through there.
Okay, so here's the best part about it. You got so many options. That's why I can't wait to look at it, because you have so many options. It'll make your head spin. That's an excellent design, what you have there, because you could employ what's called silvopasture if you wanted. You could do alley cropping if you wanted with the thing you have there. But that space in between those trees, it's always good to have some kind of mulch ring, unless it's a food forest. You always want to have at least a little bit of a mulch ring around that tree if you can possibly help it. But yours are old enough now to where it's probably of no consequence. But the beauty about having a mulch ring there is that it's always going to bring microbial life. You build it and they'll come. So if you can put a mulch ring around there, some people say as wide as the canopy. I don't buy that. You can even do a method called expellier, and I invented a new way of doing it, which I can't wait to reveal to the world, where basically, here's the way you look at a tree, John. So, okay, imagine my head's the trunk. These are your branches, right? Do they generally go like this? Okay,
No.
So when you grow a tree, the tree has two things that it's being told. It's saying, do I want to be a fruit tree, which means your branches go this way? Wait, do I want to be a tree, which means I'm vegetative, which means I'm pushing up? Or do I want to be a fruit tree where they're going to be pushing down? So what happens is we train our trees to have a smaller footprint, but are 10 times more productive in how we prune them and how we train them. So with the spacing you have on your trees, I'd have to see them to know for sure, but you may be able to do an option called expellier, where you can make these trees way more productive, have a smaller footprint, and grow even more in terms of what you're able. You could be running your animals, let's say it's sheep, in and out of those trees. That stand of trees, okay, that's basically a silvopasture, a smaller version of a silvopasture. You will see growth in the most enormous way. I can show you a way to prune these trees that will make them more productive. Even set it up in such a way to where the animals don't really mess with it. And then if you want, we could also throw some bone sauce on there to keep, any would-be browsers away. But yeah, you don't have to necessarily mow there, but it's really hard to say for sure without seeing it. But it sounds like you already did excellent design just by staggering your trees, because it gave you 10 times more ability to do silvopasture or alley cropping, depending on what it is you want to do.
So
But
two things. I've seen guys run poles up and run wires horizontal and then have their apple trees. So their apple trees grow very vertical. And then by having them attached to the wire, the wind doesn't blow the tree. The tree is very stabilized. So it puts all the energy into the fruit production rather than the trunk production. I've seen that. The last 3 years, we run that area in about 12 to 20 inches of wood chip. We chip it out, we rake it out. So we've got about an 18-inch circle exposed to the dirt for the tree. But what I found is it'll be 105 degrees outside. You walk on those wood chips and it sounds like potato chips. But when you get 6 inches under there, it's wet. You can wring water out. And the mycorrhizal fungi, it grows literally like a spider web. It just crawls through there. It's huge.
Awesome. Hey guys, I'm going to need to bounce in about 3 minutes, but this feed we can still keep going. You can still keep going. I'm about to lose my Airbnb window. It's time for me to check out. But I wanted to bring to your attention, Billy, two things. There are people asking how to follow you on YouTube, so be sure to plug Permapastures Farms YouTube channel. And then we have this question here. Just bought a house on 3 acres. Woodpeckers are destroying trees. Any way to get rid of them besides a .22 caliber pistol?
Man, that's a tough one right there, because in this area we have red cockaded woodpeckers and they're endangered. Well, at the end of the day,
they taste like chicken.
I'm less worried. Hey, bro, these days with the way things are getting, I'm less worried about woodpeckers than I am peckerwoods, because at the end of the day, I'm going to have people up here trying to, I got fruit out alongside the road that, you're welcome to. If you're a passerby, but hey, don't come rolling up in here. But 9 times out of 10 in a food forest, you're not going to even know you're in one anyway. But regarding woodpeckers, man, I really don't have any good solutions for you on that. I'll be honest with you. Somebody I'm sure does, but yeah, I'm going to go Old Testament on anything. Like Danny from Deep South Homestead recently said, look, if you're messing with my food system, I got to mess with you. And sometimes that means one of us is going to have to give up the ghost, and it ain't going to be me.
Yeah, here's a good one. Joshua says woodpeckers only go after bugs. The tree is infested. So ask yourself, in permaculture, there's that saying, the problem is the solution. So you may not have a woodpecker problem. You may have a dying tree problem. maybe evaluate that, and how can you up the health so that there's not habitat for the woodpecker to be so destructive.
That goes right back to what John said a minute ago, and I'm glad you brought it up, is that when you put down those wood chips, there's seven layers of a forest, okay? There's the overstory, the understory, the shrub layer, vine, ground cover, roots, and shrubs, okay? Technically there's 7, but I would argue that there's 8, and you brought it up a moment ago, and that's your fungal layer. We now know that the fungus is it is the most underrated thing in this world. It is the internet of the forest. And what it does, if you read books like The Secret Life of Trees and all the work that people like, my goodness, he's probably the best mycologist on the planet, Paul Stamets. You look at their work. That's why you want those wood chips out there. That's why you want that, because if you can make that fungal network go, it's telling those trees, let's say the one on the end that's being attacked by a woodpecker, which now that you said it, all the ones I do see being attacked are not necessarily in the inner parts of a forest. They're always on the edges. Okay, those are the ones that are going to be the first ones to go down. Okay, so what happens? What we know happens is that, like John said, with these mulch layers, it's adding this fungal layer to the soil that is telling those trees, believe it or not, we know this happens, that when they're being attacked on the edge, this tree says, okay, y'all, I'm going down. I'm going to die. Here's what I'm being attacked with. So all you trees that are further back in the woods, you need to start producing antibodies for this thing that's killing me right now. I'm not going to make it. But guess what? It doesn't go any further than that in a healthy forest. And we know that the fungal transmission lines are the reason that tree from the edge has already told the ones on the inside, get ready for this, so then it doesn't happen. How beautiful is that, y'all? And this is what we are trying to replicate by putting down those wood chips. Because the more mushrooms I see, the happier I get. Because I know that these trees are talking, that the mushrooms are also the teeth of the forest. So those wood chips, when they get broken down in the compost, all these things happen. And that's what we are trying to replicate, y'all. We're taking what I see over here, a healthy forest, and replicating it into my food forest, into what you have out there, John. That's why you want to, as best you can, put as much wood chips. That's a whole nother, I could probably monologue on that one for 10 minutes alone. But that's why we want to do it. We want to replicate nature because it makes life easier for us in the long run.
Have you seen where not only that, mycorrhizal fungi can wick water miles away? And well, how can they prove that, right? They put dye in it. They dyed it, and it wicked the dye half a mile away to the dry spot, the part that was exposed, just because of the wood chips and the mycorrhizal fungi underneath it.
How beautiful is that? But then we also know this is why it's not just, look, this isn't some foo-foo pie in the sky stuff or I'm not an animist that I don't necessarily have an animistic worldview, but I know everything around me has a life force. I really believe that. And all these things talk to one another. And we know that the fungus has been demonized in media. How often now? How many years now? When it's one of the most beneficial things in this world we could possibly have. So instead of growing things in isolation, the more we can put down in there, the more wood chips, the more life, the more everything we can put down in that soil, the more it's talking, the healthier we're going to have things. This is exactly what we need to be shooting for. So, I mean, like I said, when I say, I used to call myself the permaculture pimp daddy, pimp standing for permaculture is my passion. It really is, because this is the kind of stuff that gets me excited. Knowing that I can, from start to finish, raise this animal, put it in a healthy environment, cleanse it, bring it back out, put it on the table, put it in the freezer. We've had so much production and prosperity around here that I've had to give away 3 pigs already. I'm about to give away 3 more to people that need it, because there is so much abundance and it didn't cost me a dime. And it can be done. It can be achieved. It is available. You don't have to go to the store or Whole Foods for a bunch of processed garbage when you can do it right there in your own space.
Yeah, we have an amazing amount of prosperity all around us. And even among the discussions of food shortages and all the things that are expected to happen, there's a lot of abundance around us that we just ignore. If you go to California, there are oranges growing on the streets, falling on the ground, just rotting. Same in Florida. And if we learn to tap back into that, because we used to tap into those things, we'll just be in a better place. You do what you can do. Guys, I gotta bounce. I'm gonna just go off and let you guys keep going. And I can't wait to hear the end of this from the road. I'll probably stream it in my car. Thanks for coming on.
I got to bounce in about 15 minutes myself.
Yeah, just close your web browser when you're done. It's been great having you on, Billy. And John, I'll see you soon.
Awesome.
Always a joy. Be safe.
So you touched on, you mentioned Whole Foods. And for people that don't know, right, we have this idea that Whole Foods is whole food, right? And it is not what it started out to be. Amazon owns Whole Food so that they could do EBT through Whole Food. Amazon, I believe, owns Beyond Meat or something similar to it. If you go to Whole Foods, there are 2-3 aisles in there of fake and synthetic meat in there that did not come from animals. So be aware of that, right? And it's almost also, we want everybody to live in these, 2,200 square foot homes, because with a 2,200 square foot home comes 2.5 adults and a tax base and 2 working husband and wife or spouses nowadays. So it's all about tax base. You can't come in and build a 1,000 foot home anymore. Everything has to be these homes. And then with that, HOA, you have to have Kim Green lawn, right? If all that stuff, you can't have a garden and anything you can eat in your lawn if they can recognize it, right? But could you take any of that junk you have to put on that lawn to maintain the look they want? Could you ingest it without it killing you? And the answer is no, you can't. It's almost as though, whether they realize it or not, it is by design to keep the masses of the population unhealthy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's all about. I mean, going right back to the toilet paper and tomatoes, boy, there's a book right there, Toilet Paper and Tomatoes. Going right back to that, at the end of the day, I mean, I know probably everybody in this feed, and I know certainly you know it as well, is that there's big business in keeping us sick. There's big business in warfare. There, Eisenhower in his farewell address really wanted to call it the military-industrial congressional complex. And he also talked about this emerging thing that was happening in terms of science, in terms of the things, in terms of our health, in terms of how all these things go together. Yeah, there's big money. And I could bring up some of the names right now that would probably get this feed killed, but I won't. I think everybody knows who those people are out there that have, all of a sudden there's a baby food shortage. And all of a sudden, who comes out of the woodwork and they already got the problem worked out?
Billy Gates.
Yeah, how about a Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. So, right, let's go back to that Hegelian dialectic and kind of spin on the question you just had there. So, what is a problem? They create a problem. What's the reaction? Nobody ever talks about that. The reaction is almost always fear or anger, and one breeds the other, right? Yeah. Problem, reaction, solution. And then, just like coming in with the synthetic baby formula, bam, we got the solution, just like that. How about that? But sure enough, they got no problem dropping off tractor trailer loads to all those people south of the border with all this baby formula that just happened to show up out of nowhere. But that's really the key. Like you were saying with Whole Foods, you got this nonsense all going up and down those aisles, all pretending to be things that are good for you. I got news for you. If you were to go down and buy Miracle Grow and go to your local nursery, go get a flat of tomatoes, I guarantee you the tomatoes you grew in your backyard with that Miracle Grow is better than anything they call organic down at Whole Foods any day of the week. Because if you knew what I knew about what you can still do and call yourself organic, you'd be rethinking this whole organic market thing.
It's been co-opted. It doesn't mean what it used to mean.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, you can't trust these people, but I can trust you. You know what? I can maybe trust my neighbor down the way who, let's say, is growing wheat. And let's say I'm growing beef or I'm growing pigs. You know what? I'd rather do business with this person over here where if something ain't right, he can come to me. Or if something ain't right with his, I can go to him. These are I don't think we have John, I don't believe we have a choice. Do you? I mean, I think we're getting to a world right now to where festivals like the ones you guys are doing are going to be of profound value because you're going to be cross-pollinating with people that kind of see this world the way you do. You're probably going to find out going to something like this that maybe you drove 6 hours to get there that maybe another person who was your neighbor you didn't even know existed.
Happens
right
every time. Every time, man. Here at our stuff, TAC Response, people come into town, two guys come into town from California, didn't know each other, find out they live 15 minutes away from each other. Happens all the time. You have to go. People are constantly like, how do I get my wife on board, or how do I get a homesteading, woman? You got to go where that stuff's at, man. You got to go where those interests are, right? If you like the mountain bike and you want a chick that mountain bikes, you should probably meet her on the trail or at a bike shop.
That's right. You now be careful in some of these places too, y'all, because you wouldn't be the first one out there looking for a homestead honey and wound up with a homestead hussy. So do your due diligence on some of this stuff, because there is such a thing as a permaculture divorce out there. But John, because I wonder if you'd be uniquely capable of answering some of these questions. Some of the people I know that are interested in going, there's a lot of people that reached out. I got with Nicole earlier about a schedule and stuff like that. But for some of the folks that don't know out there, I mean, how is this different? And I don't know that you could even answer this if you haven't been to a number of these other homestead type festivals. What do you think is different about this one as opposed to some of the others?
Okay, so I've been to the survival expos, right? I've been when Cody has spoken and Canterbury, like I know Dave some. I've been to all the big, huge gun shows, what used to be like enormous gun shows and stuff. And I've been to some of the homestead stuff. I do what I do, and I have done that for 35 years now. I've done it in the public eye for about 10, 12 years now with YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Enough so that I have 700,000 people on Facebook, and we've got almost 30,000 on YouTube. I've had 25,000 for 10 years. We're super throttled back. They unsubscribe every month more than actually do subscribe. And a lot of my subscribers are re-subscribers. So they obviously want to see what we have to say and what we're doing. We do parties here, and we'd have upwards of 900 people. When all the Kufus and everything was going on and all the bands were happening, we said, hey, let's have a get together. We didn't promote it. We didn't bring in food trucks. We didn't have a ton of vendors. We just opened the property up and said, whoever wants to come, come. 250 people showed up. And I said, hey, I feel like I've kind of let you down. We don't have a bunch of machine guns out here. We're just doing us. Everybody's like, I want to come hang out. I don't hang out. You're going to have one time a year where I'm going to sit down and actually have a conversation, maybe have a drink, and you're going to see me actually put my ass in a chair. And that's at our events, right? So people come in. We had 250 people show up, and I was run ragged. I was taking groups of 10, 20 people around the property, sun up to sundown, and they wanted to see, hey, can I see the rabbits? Can I see the pond? Can I see how you did the water catchment? Can I see the aquaponics? Can I see those raised beds? Can I see the greenhouse? So that's what we did. And I said, Nicole, I am beat. I am more tired doing this than when we have 900 people here. And I said, people are really hungry for this, and they are not homestead guys. These are the tactical guys. These are the guys that are coming back from rotation from overseas, and they're like, I just want to be left alone. I want to get 10 acres out in the woods, and I should probably produce some of my food. So how do we mesh and mash up these two groups? I say homesteaders, there's two kinds. You have people that are so busy homesteading that that's all they do. They figured out how to buy their piece of land. They produce 90% of everything they have on the homestead, and they don't want to see society, right? And then you have the other guys that are so busy doing business and commerce that they have so much money that they can afford to do the hobby farm and the homestead stuff, whether it's profitable or not. How do we mix them together? And that's the thing. I watched so many guys on social media, especially during that last 2-3 years, right? And I really felt like I knew these guys. And you go out and you meet them and you find out it's bullshit. Like it's just not, it is not what you thought. You see the sliver. And I tell guys that all the time. They're like, man, John gets up at 4:30 every morning. I go, you got to keep in mind, you only see what I show you. You see me on the treadmill, but you don't see me walking slow on the treadmill, right? You only see those pieces that social media people show you. And it's very important that when you go someplace, there should be evidence of success or evidence of failure, but evidence that something was there, right? Not just multicam black in this corner. The whole building doesn't look like this, right? So I think that you should be able to come here and ask me a question about anything you've seen in the last 10 years, and I damn well better be able to show it to you. Otherwise, I was bullshitting you. And I think that's it, man. Just you can come here and see it in motion. We can discuss what worked. We can discuss what didn't work. We can discuss what didn't work and how we fixed it. And we're on the way to just the next evolution of it. When we bought this place, it was a gravel pit. Literally nothing was here but some pine trees, some saplings about this big around. They call them like water, some kind of water tree. I don't remember what they call them. And thorn bushes, like roses, but without any flowers, and blackberries. That was the only thing here. You couldn't take and scrape a fistful of dirt off the ground. Now, 50% of the property, you can put your elbow into the ground and pull out literally this far down in the ground, black, rich potting soil. Because we've put it in wood chips. We've got thousands of big, giant chipper trucks worth of wood chips here. And then we ran goats over them, and we ran chickens over them. And we seeded and more seeded. There's evidence that you can do it. Like if there's a property that you should never buy, it was this one. But you would never know that 5 years later now. You would never have a clue. And we have video evidence of that. I've got over 3,000 videos on YouTube now. You can go back. The day we bought this building, the gate happened to be open. I drove past it for 10 years on the way to the gym. The gate was swung open one day, and I'm like, go up there. When we bought this building, we bought it sight unseen. The doors were welded shut when we bought this place. The only reason we could even get around the building the day we did is because they'd run a bush hog around the building that day. There was literally like the vines and the thorn bushes were scraping the sides of the trucks when we drove around the building the first time.
Wow. So there's clearly quite the transformation there. Now, when people come to this, I've also been asked, and maybe you can, I don't know if it was a question for you or Nicole, but they were wondering, one of the big problems that they have, one of the big homestead gatherings that they have up in Virginia is there's nothing to eat.
Okay. So we have a gas station next door here that does all kinds of sandwiches and fried chicken, and they do hibachi. It's more of a restaurant than it is a gas station. In town, which is less than 10 minutes from here, we've got Mexican, we've got a steakhouse, we have all the fast food places. We also have a couple of food people coming in here. You will be able to get food on site.
All right. Well, that's already a winner. Man, I can't wait to be there. It just does me joy. I mean, I got to go to town at least once a week to go work with my partners, man, to get pig food and stuff like that. But man, it's always everybody and their great grandmother comes to the Asheville area for vacation. And for me, it's not Biltmore. Yeah, there's that, I guess. But at the end of the day, man, I'm really looking forward to this because I like being in the room, not with a bunch of people that are just like me, but a lot of people who think for themselves. And it seems like that I can expect a fair amount of that at something like this.
So I want access to people that are the top in their industries, and I don't have time to go to the events, right? So we're having an event where we can bring those people to us, and then we can introduce them to a whole new group of people, right? When you come to the event, we'll have 200 people kind of from the homestead community, and we'll have 200 people from the tactical community who have never met. And those are all qualified customers. If guys are coming here from my side of the house, those are guys who have done business with me for a year, 20 years, or even 30 years. Those are qualified customers who have now grown up. They've grown their businesses. We've done business to business. We've done commerce in some manner. And now they want to do the homestead stuff, but on a much bigger scale. Like I've got friends that are building buildings right now, barn dominiums that'll sleep 40 people. That's husband, wife, both sides of the family, everybody coming together, doing pigs, putting in thousands of fodder trees, like big scale stuff. And then I've got a dozen people who have moved literally 20 minutes from me who are buying. There's a lady here just bought 30 some acres right across the interstate, which is about 20 minutes from here. Nick Ferguson was just out here, did a whole property walk for him, a whole permaculture design out there. There's dozens of those guys who were at our event, the first one, who just moved like right across the river here. So it's still viable. Like Tennessee, we don't have any of the problems any of the coasts have. It just never is. We get rain. You can hunt and fish here every day of the week legally. There's still property that's affordable here. I mean, I have no codes or zoning. Like there's guys living in sheds up the road, you know, pooping in a bucket, and nobody rouses them. Nobody gives them any hassle. If they can do what they want to do, I can do anything I want to do.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. I'm looking forward to it. Man, so hey, bro, I got to ask you this. I got to bounce here in a minute, but
Yep.
I was wondering, yeah, they're down there picking all these strawberries. I mean, dude, you got to love permaculture, man. You got to love this time of year. They're down there picking all these strawberries, and I got a bunch of things I got to get done still. But, man, I wanted to ask you, because I've been asking everybody I've been speaking to as of late, because the levels of desperation I'm getting in some of these responses, whether on YouTube or an email or whatever the case may be, are extraordinary. But people tell me they want to hear the truth, and they want to hear it from people that have put foot to butt in terms of what's really going on in this world. So in light of what you see and on the horizon, I got to know, I'm sure for the benefit of a great many people that are out there watching as well, where do you see this country by Christmas? Do you have a prognostication for any of that? Any predictions?
So I dropped out of high school. I just started doing business. I didn't take any business classes. I just did what seemed right. And some of it worked and some of it didn't. I've been to prison. I've been to federal prison. I did college because I was bored in prison. So I'm not a political guy, right? I don't really know. I just do what I do. I feel like things are getting crazier and crazier. I feel like they're doing just such insane things so that we will have infighting if we don't already have a civil war, perhaps on the way to some sort of civil war, so that we can have some civil unrest so that they can suspend voting. Could be completely wrong on that. Do we think things are getting bad? Absolutely. With that said, I'm 50 years old, and there's always been some boogeyman. Oh my God, you got to get this. Oh my God, you got to do that, right? To the point that I spent 15 years of my life when social media had been around a long time, but I didn't want a digital footprint, right? I didn't want social media. I didn't want the man finding me, right? So I just spent all my money on prepping and didn't pay the man. And at some point had to come above board and get an attorney and go, hey, IRS, I owe you millions of dollars, right? And I heard Jack Spirko say, so many of these guys are sitting in caves with no electricity, living in a manner, waiting for society to collapse. And now they're 30, 40, 50, and they've wasted the best 20, 30 years of their life. And I'm like, holy shit, he's talking about me. So would you be better off? Should you be ready? Yes. Are you about to prepare for years and years and spend a lot of years of your life doing something you wouldn't do anyways? Or would you be better off doing business and focusing on business and making money? Because whether it's good or it's bad, money always makes everything easier. So looking back 15 years ago, if I'd have spent 5 years buckled down, focused on business, I mean, yeah, I got tons of rice and beans and wheat in buckets. I got tons of it. We've got all kinds of stuff in place, but nothing happened back then. Nothing catastrophic happened. I feel like I believe it's more real right now than it ever has been. So I'm kind of guarded as what to tell people to do. All I can tell you is watch what I do, watch what I'm doing, because I'm planting more garden every day. I just brought in 125 more protein tubs to put potatoes in, right? Are we going to eat them? I hope not. I don't plan to eat a single one of them potatoes. I eat meat, a lot of it. But we're going to have those potatoes. And if things are bad, I've got thousands of pounds of wheat. I have thousands of pounds of rice. So am I growing it? Yes. Do I plan to eat it? I hope I don't have to eat it. If we need to, though, I've got people here, and we have more people coming all the time that we will be able to feed them should something happen. But on the flip side of that coin is we want to do this anyways. We're the homesteading stuff. I think that's the ultimate prepper, the ultimate survival guy. Is the ultimate goal is to have a homestead. Grandma and grandpa, when I was growing up, they would babysit me, right? Middle downtown San Diego, right? Kearney Mesa, right by the stadium. But she still had a huge garden. She still did rain collection. And the next door neighbor had chickens running around in San Diego, right? It was just what we call prepping, grandma called Tuesday. She was always canning. She was always doing those things. She had seen the Great Depression. So growing up, mom canned. We didn't eat a lot of stuff out of those cans. I remember as an asshole kid shooting them with a BB gun. But I grew up on military bases. We traveled around. We went from Lemoore to Camp Pendleton to Balboa to San Diego. Grew up in, on the bombing range across from Miramar. Mm-hmm. Top Gun was right there, flew over the house every day. But we grew up out there doing that. I grew up, I saw Red Dawn in the theater. I saw Rambo in the theater. We were ready. Nostradamus, I saw it when it first came on History Channel. We had all our backpacks because the earthquake was going to happen and we were going to have to go to the mountains, right? We were ready for Y2K. Every cop within 20 miles of there was at my shop, jocked up, ready for the power to go off. Imagine our surprise when it never went quiet, right? What did we get for it? I don't know. We had a lot of fun. We collected, but there's a fine line between prepping and prep tending, right? Are you a prepper or are you a collector? And so many people are so stuck on the no action, right? Because it's easy to get on Amazon and buy these. You don't even have to go anywhere. And it's an endorphin release. It's just like, hitting a crack pipe, having sex, spending money. It's that endorphin release. You feel like you've done something. Now you can go on the forums and talk about your widget you got.
Yep.
But do you have anything planted in the dirt? Do you have any water? Like I like to tell guys all the time, they're like, hey, what are most people lacking? Dude, water's free when it comes out of your faucet for the most part. Put it in some containers, put it in some buckets, put it someplace, right? So I don't know, man. I just kind of do the same thing every day. And I focus on one more thing today than yesterday and one more thing tomorrow than today. And there's so much, what should I do? What should I do? Physical fitness is free. You can take a man, you can put him on a ship for 6 months, 9 months now. You can take him and put him in the desert. You can lock him in a cage. If he chooses to, he can still stay fit. You don't need a gym. They got this thing called Outside. And all you have to do is body weight stuff. If you really think, look around, you have a pile of stuff someplace, then obviously you think you might need that. Is your life going to be easier without electricity if you are fit? The last thing you want to do is be trying to get to fighting fitness, fighting weight, when people are trying to harm you. And I believe that the only thing holding society together is the fear that they will take those guys and put them in a cage. I believe that you are within 100 feet of somebody who is more than willing to kill you every time you leave your front door. There is nothing in our society that wants to pounce on you and eat you. That's the difference between a first world, second world, third world country, right? Water, most people watching this live feed right now have never cracked that faucet and not seen water. Most of them have never lived 30 days without electricity. First world countries, third world countries, they spend 50% of their lives hauling fuel and water to heat water so that the water won't kill you. And we are weak as a society. And I say we, that includes me.
Yeah, but also at least you've given a second thought to it. I mean, and I know that I do as well. And I can't agree with you more. I mean, I'm sitting here in my own mind, I'm saying amen, because you and I are the same age. And I remember going through that same phase as well, where there was a period where there was preparedness. And to a certain extent, I guess you could even say cry wolf with my family, because I thought things would jump off before. But for the first time ever, I'm starting to think, I'm starting to see all these little pieces getting to a point where it's starting to seem like it is very consequential, because it's no longer theoretical. I can go to the grocery store. I know what the price of grain is. I know what it's going to be. Yeah. I'm not guessing anymore. I know what that does. And I know how many people don't live like me, where they grow a good piece of their food, so much that I got to give it away to friends of mine. It's a good way to, get to know people and stuff. Not everybody lives that way. By and large, like you said, most people, if they turn that tap, they expect water. They don't know what it's like to ever be without power for any period of time. They don't know what it's like to live in a rolling blackout. They don't know what it's like to not have power at all. Notwithstanding all those, a tornado comes through, but you're only really a few minutes away from a place that does have power and does have a means of help.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the first time ever, I'm starting to see what I see a whole lot of moving pieces come together, but it's not creating any stress necessarily in my life, because at the end of the day, yeah, preparedness is a byproduct of the permaculture life I lead.
You're going to know when you start seeing the cities on fire again this summer.
Yeah, I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see a great many things unfold. And at the end of the day, that's part of why I live where I do, because you don't accidentally roll up on my road. You don't just find yourself here unless you live here. I picked this place for strategic reasons and tactical reasons. I got elevation. I got a limited accesses of approach to people that want to come here or would want to come here. There's only one approach for you, but there's multiple routes for me. I have home field advantage living here. There's a number of things I have just by virtue of living here. Also, I got the woods. I got a number of things in which places I can procure food should I need it, should I want it. And at the end of the day, like you said, no matter how prepared you are, I still got power lines that come to this house.
Yeah.
There are still things I go to the grocery store for, unless I'm like Danny and Wanda down at Deep South Homestead, where you only essentially go to the store for aluminum foil and toilet paper. You really haven't arrived. And even in that area, should you crank away the power, things are going to happen. At the end of the day, I think there was that person that said, adversity makes men, prosperity makes monsters. And we've been pretty prosperous for a very long time. And at the end of the day, I know there's a lot of desperate emails and stuff like that. And that's why I was asking you some of the questions I did. Look, at the end of the day, y'all get prepared. I mean, there's easy, simple things you can do. Like you said, John, put this stuff. You got some spare buckets, put some water in there. You got rice. You said on the last interview, it had me cracking up. You were like, okay, well, there may be some bugs in that rice. Well, that's why you boil it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can still eat it. Okay, so you get a little bit more protein out of that rice. You got some weevils in there. Well, it's still edible to somebody.
Yeah, there is nobody in China, Thailand, Taiwan, Vietnam that's packaging rice in any manner. They have it in a room, in a rice hut, and they have a whole room full of rice. And when my friend over there said, "Hey, how come you have so much rice?" she said, "Because the rats eat half of it."
Wow. See, yeah, we got some two-legged rats. I'm sure it's going to roll up here before too long. But hey, brother, I got to get rolling. I'm looking down there, man. I can see she's mad as a hornet.
Yeah, you go, man.
Hey,
guys,
man.
I do a live feed every night at 9:00 on YouTube. We have these same conversations. Join us. We put 6 videos a day up on YouTube. Some of them are funny. Some of them are real. Some have, actionable stuff in them. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Getter, MeWe, TikTok. Billy, you should be on TikTok. It's growing. My TikTok doubles every month, and the hashtags are used 400% more than they are on Instagram. It's unthrottled right now.
Wow. So you're getting real numbers on there, huh?
Yeah.
I might have to think about doing that, because I know it's just a matter of time before they cut me out of here or shadow ban. There's no reason, honestly. When I first saw your YouTube, I thought for sure you had at least in excess of 250,000. And then I realized, I looked at you on Social Blade and I'm like, hold on, you're telling me with what he puts out there and the information he has here, he's only got 8 subscribers today? Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Yeah.
Twitter's pretty unthrottled too, and you can set your Facebook so that it auto posts onto Twitter.
Man, it's just a matter, especially this time of year, working 16-hour days doing what we're doing. It's kind of hard to find the time to do it, but I guess I'll have to find some plan B, because I know they're going to kick me off of plan A.
You got to find some kid that wants to come and learn what you have to teach, that likes messing with his phone.
Man, yeah, who knew? Yeah, because my kid, it's all he can do to put these videos out. All of us here are basically a bunch of Luddites. At the end of the day, man, Yeah, I guess I need to go ahead and get myself out of the Stone Age and out of the cave.
I walk around with this. I film about 5% of my day. I take my footage and put it on a hard drive. I got a dude that I pay that comes in here 3 days a week, takes the data off my hard drive and puts my videos together and does my uploads.
I need one of those.
Yeah, you do. You do.
Yeah, I'm sure I could trade some permaculture pimp daddy stuff or something like that. But hey, John, I better get rolling here, brother. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, man. Good to talk to you, Billy.
Take care, bro. Bye.
See ya. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.